Hello everybody and welcome to 5.1. We did a lot yesterday in class dealing with the different forms of quadratics. We looked at how to write the equation given specific information. We looked at how can you take the equation of a quadratic and pull information about the parabola out of it. So I'm going to skip through the first page on your note packet. If you look at the completed note packet that's online, I have all the information filled in, so if you want to go back and take a look at it, you can. But I'm really going to start to focus on more of the writing of the equations since we did so much graphing in class. So what I want you to do right now is, in your notes, I want you to turn to example number 5. Alright, so if you'll see in number 5, it tells us that the point 3, 4 is on the parabola, and we have a vertex of 0, 1. And we're going to look at finding the equation in standard form. Now remember in class we talked about the fact that you can go from one form to the next depending on whatever form you're starting with, whether it be standard form, vertex form, or intercept form. So because the question gave me the vertex, I'm going to take that piece of information and I'm going to write the equation in vertex form. So if you remember, the formula is y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. So there's my vertex form, and now I'm going to substitute in for my h and my k. So we have y equals a, and then we have x minus 0, because remember, this goes hk for your vertex, squared plus 1. Alright, now, if you'll notice, I have an x and a y that I can substitute in. That's coming from the point 3, 4 that I'm going to use. So we can say 4 equals a times 3 minus 0 squared plus 1. Alright, the next thing that we are going to take a look at is the only thing we have left to solve for now is a. So I'm going to simplify everything here. So we have 4 equals a times 3 squared plus 1. Making sure I follow my order of operations, I'm going to square 3. So this is 4 equals 9a plus 1. And we can get rid of that 1. So now we have 3 equals 9a, and for our last step, in order to find a, we're going to divide by 9. So our a value, and I'm going to go ahead and reduce it, is 1/3. So far we have our 1/3 value here for our a, so we're going to need that, so kind of keep that handy. Okay, now remember that our question asked us to put it in standard form. So standard form is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. And since our vertex is 0, 1, that also happens to be, if you think about, if you plot the point 0, 1, that would also be on the y-axis. So if it's on the y-axis, it's also the y-intercept. So this actually gives us two pieces of information. It gives us the vertex, and it also gives us the y-intercept. So we now know that our c value is actually 1. So I've got an a value and I've got a c value. Now, if my vertex happens to sit on the y-axis, that also means that my axis of symmetry is 0. And if you remember when we talked in class, when you look at your vertex, your x value of your vertex, which in this case is 0, that gives you the equation for the axis of symmetry. So since my axis of symmetry is x equals 0, if you think about your formula, x equals negative b over 2 times a, if that has to equal 0, then this b value had to be 0. Okay? So since b is 0, I now know that b is 0, I have a is 1/3, and c is 1. I can go ahead and write this in standard form now. So we have y equals 1/3 x squared plus plus 0x plus 1. Now, if it's 0x, I don't need to write it, so I can just go ahead and drop that. So my final standard form is going to be y equals 1/3 x squared plus 1. And that's what the equation would look like. Alright, let's take a look at number 6. It says if the vertex of this equation is 4, 1, find a and b. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put this into vertex form. So we have y equals, let's not forget our formula here. Don't forget your vertex gives you your h and your k value. Keep in mind when you put 4 into your formula for your h, remember to change the sign. So we have y equals a times x minus 4 squared plus 1. Alright, so now that I've got that in there, I also know that I have another point. You might not realize this yet, but we actually know our c value. And remember we talked about your c value tells you your y-intercept. And any point on the y-axis is going to be 0, comma, and then it's given a y value. In this case, it's 3. So I also know that the point 0, 3 is on my parabola. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is use that as my x and my y value. So we have 3 equals a times 0 minus 4 squared plus 1. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and simplify some of this. So this is going to turn out to be negative 4. Don't forget when you're squaring a negative, you should come out with a positive. This is going to be 16. Alright, so now in order to solve for a, we're going to subtract 1 from both sides. So this is going to give me 2 equals 16a, and after I get done dividing by 16, I'm going to have an a value of 1/8. So I got my a value of 1/8, and I have my c value of 3, which came with my formula. Now I need to find my b value. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and use the point 4, 1. Even though it's my vertex, I'm going to use it in my standard form, because regardless of the fact that it's my vertex, it's still a point on my parabola. So taking the standard form and filling in what I know, this is going to help me find my c value, because what you'll end up happening is there won't be any other variables left to solve for except for b. So I'm going to use the point 4, 1, so I have 1 equals, a is now 1/8, we just figured that out. 4 is our x value. We don't know b yet, we're still looking for that. Remember, x was 4, and then from the original question, c value is 3. So you're going to go ahead and carefully simplify all of this. Okay, so I've kind of gotten you started here, so go ahead and finish solving for b. Okay, you should have come up with a b value of -1. So now I have my a, I have my b, and we originally had c in our equation to start from. So the final formula is going to look like y equals 1/8 x squared minus x, that's really minus 1x, so there's that b value of -1 being in there, and then plus 3 that we started with. Now one of the ways that you can go ahead and check these is you can put them into your calculator and then go to your table, and you can take a look at the points that are on your table, and 4, 1 should be there, and it should be your vertex. So it's just a way for you to double check to make sure you have the correct equation. Alright, number 7. I know some of you are probably whining and complaining right now because it's a word problem, but guess what? We're going to be doing some word problems in class. Quadratic word problems really aren't that bad. There's usually only a couple major points from your parabola that the question is asking about. So if you can decipher from the question what part of the parabola they're asking you to find, they're really not that difficult questions. And a lot of times it'll help you if you draw a picture that goes along with the question. It'll kind of help you determine, are they asking you to find one of the roots? Are they asking you something about the vertex? Are they asking you something about the y-intercept? So in this case, we happen to be throwing some apples around. So you throw an apple up to a third-story balcony. T is representing your time, and your time is in seconds. And they give you the height of the apple, and they give it to you by that nice, neat little formula there. Your friend catches the apple just as it reaches its highest point. Well, so let's draw a picture so we can see what's going on here. So here is your friend up on a balcony, and here is you down on the ground throwing your apple. Alright, so you're going to take this apple and you're going to throw it up, and your friend is going to catch it at its highest point. So if it's going in the shape of a parabola, what do we call the highest, or the lowest sometimes, point of a parabola? You're right, the vertex. So really, they're just asking you something about the vertex. So it says, how long does it take the apple to reach your friend, and at what height above the ground does your friend catch it? So basically, they're asking you for all aspects of the vertex. Well, in order to find the vertex, the first thing we're going to do is find the axis of symmetry. And we have a nice formula for that. Alright, so on your mark, get set, go. Tell me the equation for the axis of symmetry. Awesome. X equals negative b over 2a. So looking at our formula, our b value happens to be 38.4. So if we substitute that in, that's going to be negative 38.4 over 2. And then our a value is negative 16. Alright. So if you go ahead and calculate that, that comes out to be about 1.2 seconds. So 1.2 seconds after you throw the apple, it reaches its highest point. Now, if I want to find out how high the apple is at that time, what do I have to do with that 1.2 seconds? Good, you got to substitute it back in. So you're going to sub 1.2 back into your formula. So what I want you to do right now is I want you to take your formula, okay, the h equals negative 16t squared plus 38.4t plus 0.96. I want you to substitute in 1.2, and I want you to tell me what the height is. So make sure you get it all set up here correctly. And then I want you to carefully calculate this. Here's your calculator. And we'll see if we come up with the same answer. Alright, I went ahead and just put all mine into my calculator and let my calculator do the work for me. So I came up with an answer of 24 feet. So hopefully that is the same as what you came up with as well. Okay? Alright, we are going to skip number 8. Again, if you want to take a look at all the work, you can go ahead and print or take a look at the completed notes. Alright, I skipped down to number 10 here. Number 9, we did a lot of those in class, so I didn't think you needed any more practice with those. So taking a look at number 10, it says the vertex is negative 2, 3, and a point on the parabola is 5, 12. Find the equation of the parabola in vertex form. So remember, your vertex form reads a times the quantity x minus h squared plus k. If you're having a little bit of a trouble memorizing those formulas, go ahead and make some flashcards. It's a good way for you to study, but you do need to know the basic formulas for all of those, for intercept form, for vertex form, and for standard form. Alright, so taking a look at this, we're going to put in our vertex. So we have y equals a times x plus 2. Remember to change that. Plus 3. Okay, and they said that a point on the parabola is 5, 12. So I'm going to go ahead and substitute that in. Notice the only thing that we are left with is our a value, so we're going to have to find a. Alright, so what I want you to do now is go ahead and simplify and find me a. As a matter of fact, let's have a little race. Let's see who can find it first. Are you ready? On your mark, get set, go. Alright, I think I might have won, but maybe you had me on that one. Alright, your a value is 9 over 49. Now, because we have to write it in vertex form, that's really the only thing we need to find. It didn't ask for standard form, so we don't need to go ahead and find B or C. So the only thing we're going to do is we're going to substitute back in that A value. So you should have y equals 9 over 49 times the quantity x plus 2 squared plus 3. And that is the equation of your parabola in vertex form. Okay, number 11, you're going to want to make sure that you know how to do. There's going to be a question on your test like this where we give you an equation and then we want you to find the axis of symmetry, the vertex, and then put the equation in vertex form. So first thing we're going to do is find the axis of symmetry. So remember your formula, x equals negative b over 2a. You'll need to know that for your test too, so you want to make sure you memorize that. So we have negative 8 over 2 times negative 2, so it's looking like negative 8 over negative 4, which is just going to give you 2. So the equation for your axis of symmetry is x equals 2. Now, if I want to go ahead and find my vertex, I'm going to take that value of 2 and I'm going to substitute it back into my formula. And I'm going to find the corresponding y value. So we have y equals negative 2 times 2 squared plus 8 times 2 minus 3. Alright, so go ahead and simplify that, and then we will come back when we're done with that. Okay, you should have gotten a y value of 5. So remember, your vertex is a point. So even after you find the y value, you want to make sure that you go back and you write your vertex as a point, which happens to be 2, 5. Alright, everybody good with that one? Now, the next part of the question here says, does the point 3, 3 lie on the parabola? If I want to determine whether a point lies on the parabola or not, I have to just substitute that value in to the formula. So my original equation was y equals negative 2x squared plus 8x minus 3. And all you're going to do is you're going to substitute in 3 for y and 3 for x. Now, you shouldn't be doing any kind of inverse operations when you're checking to see if a point is on the line or on the parabola or on your graph at all. You should just be simplifying each side. So the left-hand side of this equation, I'm not going to touch. It's just going to continue to stay 3. On the right-hand side, though, I'm going to simplify everything. So just following your order of operations, you can just go ahead and simplify. So we're looking at negative 18 plus 24 minus 3. Alright, so if I do negative 18 plus 24 and then subtract 3, I end up with, oh, hey, look at that, I end up with 3. So we get 3 equals 3. So yes, this point does lie on the line. So the point 3 is on, or sorry, not on the line, on the parabola. Now, another way that you can double check, you're proving this algebraically. You could prove it graphically by going to your calculator, graphing it, and then taking a look at the table and seeing if the 0.33 was on there. Alright, now the next one says find the equation in vertex form. Well, in part B, we found the vertex. The vertex was 2, 5. Okay, and we know that from our standard form of our equation, our a value is negative 2. So we're just going to do a quick conversion here. And we get y equals negative 2 times x minus 2 squared plus 5. Okay, so in this case, it was really easy. We already had the vertex. We already had our a value because it had been in standard form to begin with. So this one was fairly easy to go ahead and put into standard form. Later on in the unit, we do a little bit with completing the square and how to go from standard form to vertex form algebraically without knowing any points, just simply going from one form to the next. Alright, that does it for the 5.1 notes. Hopefully this gave you a little more practice from what we were doing in class. If you want the completed set of notes, go ahead back to the Google Classroom, and there is a completed notes sheet there for 5.1 that fills in all the blanks that I didn't fill in on the video. Alright, have a great night, day, morning, whatever time you're watching this, and I'll see you guys in class.